All right. Welcome, Cara.
Hi.
Hi. Good to have you here. Before we jump into questions, can you share with everyone your approach going into tonight? How do you feel about how the roster is coming together?
Oh, I'm really happy about it. I think we just really went with a lot of grit, a lot of, two-way forwards that can also score goals. Obviously, we solidified the back end tonight. And I just think we got a lot of players who were overachieving last year, and those are the type of players we want to bring in.
Thanks, Cara. All right. We'll give everyone a moment. We have a few hands already raised. When I call on you, please share your name and your outlet. Gemma, let's start with you.
Hi there, Gemma Carson Smith with the Canadian Press. Kara, now that you've got 12 players on your roster, tell us a little bit about what you think the identity of your team is shaping up to be.
Well, certainly it's going to be one that's built from the back end, right? From the net out with a lot of great skating, puck carrying defenders. I think you're going to see a lot of interchangeable positions where you might not know who's the forward and who's the D on the ice at certain times. And just again, like some gritty, hardworking players who can also put the puck in the net.
And you picked Ashton Bell with the first overall pick. That's a historic pick. Why Ashton?
Well, I've had the pleasure of coaching Ashton in the past, and she is just the exact person you want on your team. Not only is she extremely talented on the back end, she's played both offense and defense in her career, but she's also one of those great teammates and great human beings that's just always showing gratitude and doing things the right way. Her workout ethic is outstanding, and to me, that's the exact type of player we wanted to bring in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma. All right. Next up, Melissa Burgess.
Hi, I have two questions. First one, just asked the other GM the same question, so I'll ask you. What is your plan for hiring a head coach? Do you have a candidates in mind? Do you have a timeline or a date that you would like to have one in place by?
Yeah, no, we're going through the process. So there was a lot of great candidates reaching out, which is amazing to see such qualified people who wanted to coach at this high level of professional women's hockey. So going through the interview process, narrowing down our candidates, and I feel like it's coming along really well. I don't want to give an exact date because it's certainly nothing that I want to rush. I want to make sure that, our vision aligns and that I feel like they'd be a great addition because it is a really important hire. So, not going to rush it, but I think we're on a good timeline right now.
And then my other question, because they told us on the broadcast who was in the war room for the other team, they did not tell us who was in the war room for you guys. So could you tell us who was in there with you tonight?
Yeah, my head scout, Kathy Pippi. So head of scouting knows probably every player from birth years like 2012 all the way through to 1990. So a really great handle on all the players. And then Alex Jimenez, who's like just great with the numbers and the salary cap management and the strategy around drafting. He's done a lot of work with Major League Baseball drafts. So just kind of a draft specialist, so to say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Next up, we have Hayden Godfrey.
Hey, Cara, Hayden Godfrey with the Toronto Star. Izzy Daniel is a name that Toronto Septors fans came to know well. But for your fans who are perhaps unfamiliar with her game, how would you describe her as a player and sort of where do you see her fitting in on your roster?
Yeah, well, I have known Izzy Daniel on the wrong end of many, many games when I was coaching at Princeton and she was playing at Cornell. So I have seen what Izzy is capable of doing. She is fast, she's tenacious, she is going to outwork most people on the ice, and she has a knack for setting up other players. Like she was a Patty Kazmaier winner, so the best player in women's college hockey. And I saw her like lead her teams at Cornell to some really big championships. So I think Vancouver's going to be really excited to see, and also humble as anything. So you're going to see just a really great 200-foot player that's also extremely creative and crafty and is going to set up some really nice goals.
Thanks for the time, Cara.
Carol Schramm.
Thanks, Mandy. It's Carol Schramm from the Hockey News and Forbes Sports Money, based in Vancouver. Hi, Cara. I'm curious off the top about, I, I wonder, did you know that the Vancouver Canucks have never had a first overall draft pick in their 5-year history in the NHL? And if you did that influence your decision to hang on to that first pick rather than go to the 2-3 in the snake draft?
I did not know that. We did a couple practice drafts in a bunch of different orders, and truly nothing can prepare you for like what actually happens, because no matter how many times you try to project who they might pick or from what team, it's you can't do it. So we just think it's the best strategy. If we know who we want number one, let's take the number one pick and start off strong and know that we're getting the person we want to join our team. And so that's what we did.
Nice. And you mentioned the help that Alex gave you as far as managing the salary cap and making all the decisions. Is there a way you can sort of like boil down to an elevator pitch how you prioritize the high salary stars versus the depth players, and what it takes to try to get the balance right in a process that has never happened before?
Yeah, it certainly is uncharted waters. But I think the important thing is like we had 5 great signings initially that we really, really loved. And then the next priority was finding some of those undervalued players that were truly outperforming where their, analytics and metrics should have been. And so for me, that's a great type of player that's always proving others wrong in a way, that's outperforming and outworking other teams. So we kind of went with that, and then managing the cap so we still have a little bit of money to go into free agency, which is the next phase of this. So there's kind of 4 phases to building this team. We went through phase 1 in the signing period, and now this was just phase 2. We still have free agency and then the entry draft.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
John Worrell?
Thanks, Mandy. Hey, Cara, John Morey with the Associated Press. Um, there seem to be 2 distinct approaches taken by Seattle and yourself, and I'm not sure, they're both, I'm sure, I'm not sure what they reflect, but you Megan came on board and said, I've got my first 2 lines set, I think. And you came on board here and said, I think I've got my defense set, especially with the top 4 defensemen that you have. Are you interested in, can you comment about the 2 distinct kind of approaches that the teams took?
Yeah, well, again, I was a defender, and I really think it's such a valuable position, and finding the right D and having, a great core, 1 through 8 even is what makes championship teams. So again, we got Emmerich Maschmeyer, which is one of the arguably the best goalies in the world, and then we, solidify that D core. We get a couple superstar power, some superstar power up front, and then kind of loaded in with really solid depth 200-foot players that can make plays. So just a little bit different where maybe we went with some of the more depth players in that forward position, but we're really happy with it.
How important was it, just as a follow-up, how important was it in rolling out your plan and vision of the team to get Sophie and Claire right away, just as those cornerstones?
Yeah, it was really important. Talking to them about the vision and the plan is exactly what got them on board. And those were, 2 of my top D choices, and we got them both on the first morning. And so for me, that was a huge success.
Thanks, Cara.
Thanks, John. Next up, Kyle Cushman.
Kyle Cushman with The Score. Obviously a big signing in the signing window, Sarah Nurse. In her letter, talking to Toronto fans, she also wrote about the conversation she had with you, and had some very positive things to say, saying that it was a refreshing conversation, and saying that she felt seen by you. Can you speak to the conversation you had with Sarah to bring her to Vancouver, and what that recruiting process was like from your perspective?
Well, I've also had the pleasure of knowing Sarah since she was young. I coached her when she was on the under-18 team with the Canadian national team. So I've seen her and followed her and stayed connected with her and watched her game kind of like ebb and flow throughout the years. And I just, spoke to her that I really want to help her succeed on the ice. And I want to make sure she has the support around her because it's a big year for Sarah, and we want to get every ounce out of her this season. And I think, she probably liked that, and that we also appreciate what she does for our game because Sarah Nurse brings awareness and fans, and really that is also invaluable and extremely important.
Thank you.
Nancy Shields?
Awesome. Hi, Cara. I'm Nancy Shields from Women's Hockey Life. Several of your picks have captained teams in the past. How important do you think leadership was in your evaluations?
It's extremely important. Like I said, like locker room and culture is probably at the top of my criteria when selecting players. And it's kind of interesting that this is the first time that you actually get to select players versus recruit them and encourage them and ask them to choose you. So this was a little bit different. So you do the work beforehand, and it was a major factor in narrowing down our list of the players we wanted during this draft.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
JP, you're next.
Yes, hi, Cara. JP Arkin here in Montreal. You've selected Abby Boreen quite early in the draft. Could you just tell us, what you see in her and what you think she could bring to your team?
Yeah, Abby, she's also one of those somewhat like overperforming, undervalued players in a way. She had a tremendous season last year. I also followed her college hockey career, so we know what an impact she can have on the game. I think she can play both offensively and defensively, distribute pucks, discipline in the D zone. So she's just one of those all-round players that when you have a player like that on your team, you can kind of move her up and down the roster wherever you need. And so we're really excited about Abby.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any final questions? Please raise your virtual hand. We'll turn it over to Gemma.
Hi again. You talked a little bit about what you've got and what you were looking for as you were going through the first phases of the expansion process. What are you looking for next as you move towards the free agency signing?
Well, I think that we're gonna look for a couple more like, top six forwards in the free agency period and see who we might I guess lure to Vancouver and who wants to be a part of this amazing team because I think we have the building blocks in place and maybe we finish it off using, the draft and the free agency to get a couple top six forwards.
Thank you.
All right. This concludes our media availability for this evening. Thank you, Cara, and congratulations. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight, and have a great night. Oh,
Thank you. Oh.
Melissa.
Mandy, I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw my question in the chat. I know some of us are confused about the signing window that was announced that opens June 16th. Could you clarify that? Like, is that total free agency? Is that for players to potentially re-sign with their current team?
So the signing
We're just
window
not
that
sure.
opens on June 16th at 9 a.m. Eastern time is for players on expiring contracts, and then any additional rules to that signing window will be announced prior to its commencement.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You are welcome. All right. Thank you, everyone.